Hello, as everybody's probably figured out by now, the FBI has executed a search warrant on my home. The search warrant was based upon what they deemed to be probable cause that I am in violation of the Foreign Agent Registrations Act. And they executed a search warrant looking for electronic devices, my computers, my cell phone, things of that nature. Based upon their questions, it appears that they are primarily concerned about my relationship with RT and Sputnik. More specifically, that I am receiving direction from RT and Sputnik, and I'm being compensated for this. And that means that I am working on behalf of the Russian government. I let them know in no uncertain terms that that is absolutely not what's happening, that any compensation I get from RT and Sputnik is the same as I get from any journalistic entity that I provide articles or video products for. I am a journalist, and I get compensated for my work. We shall see where it goes. They were in my house for 5.5 hours. Very professional, very courteous. I have no problems with the people who executed the search warrant. I do have a problem with the search warrant itself. Let's just be very clear. No crime has been committed. I am not a foreign agent. I am not in violation of the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and they know this. This was an act of intimidation by the U.S. government designed to have a chilling effect. I was accused of that my articles were designed to manipulate the opinion of the American people on behalf of the Russian government, that my podcasts do the same thing. Ask the Inspectors, apparently a Russian propaganda tool designed to, again, manipulate the thinking of the American people. This is absurd in the extreme. This raid on my home was designed to have a chilling effect, to make me think twice about speaking out, about writing, about doing podcasts. And as I told the FBI, and I'll tell you now, there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that I'll back down, because I'm doing nothing wrong. I'm doing what every concerned American should be doing when they believe that their government is behaving in a manner that doesn't conform with the values and principles that are set forth by the Founding Fathers in the Constitution of the United States of America. I am an American citizen holding my government accountable and exercising the rights given to me by the Constitution. Today, the United States government declared war on me. They declared war on my ability to write, my ability to speak, my ability to interact with the American people, and indeed with a broader international audience. So be it. We're at war. It's not a war I plan on losing, and I can tell you that there is no chilling effect. Look forward to seeing me in the future as soon as I get the ability to interact more efficiently. But thank everybody for their concern, and I'll see you Friday night on Ask the Inspector. The search warrant is related to concerns apparently the U.S. government has about violations of the Foreign Agent Registration Act. I will tell you right now, I am not in violation of the Foreign Agent Registration Act. I have not done anything that would do it, and hopefully by executing the search warrant and taking the materials that they did, they will rapidly reach that conclusion. I will say that things like this have a chilling effect on free speech. There's no doubt that I'm being targeted because of statements I've made about U.S. policy in Ukraine. I'm being targeted because I have made an effort to try and improve relations between the United States and Russia, to try to bring about arms control, to bring about peace. Apparently somebody in the U.S. government takes umbrage at this, so they executed a search warrant. The FBI was extraordinarily professional. I have no complaints against the personnel that did this. I do have complaints against the personnel that caused this to happen. This has a chilling impact on free speech. The idea that you have a free speech right in America, when you execute it in a manner that the U.S. government takes exception to, and they launch a search warrant, that is an intimidation factor. I can say that I am not intimidated, and I will continue to speak out, and I will continue to do what I do, because that's my responsibility as an American citizen, and I will continue to operate in that manner. So I think I gave you all the answers you need at this point in time. I would request that you respect that and let me and my wife get on with our business.
What time did they show up today?
I don't know. They were here a long time. So, you know.
Can you say generally what type of stuff was in the boxes they took?
The search warrant allowed them to look for electronic equipment. They were clearly interested in communications that I've had with people related to the work I do. That's all I can say about it. It's up to them to review it. I have nothing to hide. I was cooperative with them, and it is what it is, and we'll get on with it. But as I said, I respect their right to do what they did. I'm not in violation of the law, and I will not be intimidated. So anybody upstairs who thought that this will intimidate me and cause me to stop speaking out, they guessed wrong. Have a great day.
Did they take your passport from you a couple weeks ago?
They took that. That's an old story. But yeah, my passport was seized when I returned from Russia back in June. When I was getting ready to leave for Russia back in June.
You said it took some stuff that was related to your work. What work exactly?
I'm a writer. You figure it out. You're a journalist? Imagine if they did a search warrant in your workplace. What would they take? Journalist equals 4.
What has happened today to Scott Ritter, because I was supposed to talk with him today. He didn't appear, and I have sent many messages to him, and no response came from him. And right now I've learned that his house was raided by FBI. Earlier this year, we've seen that his passport was seized by the State Department before going to Russia. And before coming here, I talked with Larry Johnson, and he said he has no idea what's going on right now. But in your opinion, why the State Department should do that to Scott Ritter? What's the importance of this politically, or?
Well, I have no idea what is going on or what the specifics are, but this is all very reminiscent of the Red Scares that we've had right after World War I, the so-called Palmer raids, which were conducted by the Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Palmer. This was when the FBI was formed, when J. Edgar Hoover began his career, and it consisted of systematic harassment and jailing of people for what were regarded as unacceptable opinions. The same thing happened, of course, in the 1950s. When I worked at the State Department, I had as my desk the desk where a predecessor had been hauled out by the FBI on basically spurious charges. We're back in this sort of period in which the federal government is very intolerant of any opinion that does not support its policies and actions. And few people have been as effective as Scott Ritter in questioning the official narrative, particularly about Ukraine. I would not be surprised if his criticism had been misinterpreted by people in the internal security area, which is what the FBI deals with, as some kind of agent of influence activity by Moscow. I'm confident that is not the case for Scott Ritter, but I have had friends who have been subjected to interrogation and basically harassment and warning for expressing views that are unconventional. I don't know, as I said, I don't know what happened, but this is consistent with the zeitgeist, if you will, in the United States.
Yeah. And going to the conflict in the Middle East right now, it seems that Washington is talking about that they're convinced that Iran is not going to attack Israel. On the other hand, we're hearing something different, that it shows that Iran can attack Israel because Iranian warned civilian airlines worldwide to avoid its airspace due to military exercises. How do you see, in your opinion, is Iran going to respond to what Israel did in Iran?
Well, I think Iran has been very definite that it will not be deterred from reprisal, so it will carry out some kind of retaliation. The same thing essentially has been said by Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah in Lebanon. I note that Mr. Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, sent his national security advisor, former defense minister Sergei Shoigu, to Tehran, apparently to do some arms transfers. but also to carry a letter offering to mediate between Tehran and Israel. And I think this is actually a very good illustration of the impotence of American diplomacy at the moment. Since we have no relationship with Iran and cannot have a candid conversation with it, we are not in a position to help sustain the peace by any means other than the use of force. And so we have 12 naval vessels in the Eastern Mediterranean offshore as a show of support for Israel. And Lloyd Austin, the defense minister, defense secretary, has declared that if there is a war, we will back Israel. On the other hand, I would be very surprised if Iran repeated what it did in April. First of all, if it did repeat it, it would not be the same because it would not be preceded by a warning or assurances that nobody would be killed, or the launching of very old, obsolete drones to provide 6 hours of warning time to Israel and the United States and Jordan that its airspace was going to be violated. I think there is a classic Chinese doctrine, a military aphorism, if you will, which says, no repetition of a winning move. Do not repeat something that has worked. I don't think Iran would repeat that. If there is an attack on Israel, it will likely be a comprehensive attack. That means Yemen, the Iraqi militias, Hezbollah, and Iran would all do something together. Because before I get to what I think is more likely, I will just remark that Mr. Netanyahu has done something that for 14 centuries no one else was able to do, namely unite Sunni and Shia against a common enemy. So you see Ismail Haniyeh celebrated in Tehran, which is the capital of the Shia world. You see Mr. Erdogan, an avowed hardline Sunni Democrat, celebrating his unity with Hezbollah. This is remarkable. But I don't think, I think I'm more concerned really about a different possibility, and that is that Iran and Hezbollah, which have not been in the business of counter-assassination of Israeli officials, even though they themselves have suffered repeatedly from Israeli assassinations, that the red line that's been crossed is that one, and that they will now begin to assassinate Israeli officials. This is based on nothing other than basically a guess. I don't know what they're going to do. Nobody knows what they're going to do. It's not even clear that they know what they're going to do because they're taking their time to decide. But this is a very complex, very risky situation we are in. And the United States has walked right into the trap that Mr. Netanyahu set. His purpose in conducting this humiliation of Iran on the day of the president's inauguration, assassinating a state guest in a state guest house, and attacking Hezbollah at the same time. This was clearly designed to provoke a wider war, to provoke Hamas to halt the hostage negotiations, which it has not done, but it has selected Yahya Sinwar as its new leader, which is a turn toward a hard line, and to provoke both Hezbollah and Iran into attacking Israel, and thereby triggering an American entry into the war that Israel has already basically begun with the Palestinians and all of its neighbors. So he has not succeeded in Netanyahu in that yet. He might yet. But my guess is that people in Tehran and in Beirut are thinking very hard about doing something that doesn't automatically bring the United States into the war.
Yeah. In terms of Shoigu, do you understand what was the necessity of Shoigu going to Iran?
Well, I think it was partly symbolic, partly also reciprocity. Iran has been helpful to Russia, particularly with drones in the war in Ukraine. And I think this was a gesture of solidarity. But it was also an opportunity for him to consult with the new president in Tehran about how to respond to the provocations Mr. Netanyahu has just undertaken. And I believe he was also accompanied by quite a number of heavy lift aircraft, probably bringing in electronic warfare equipment and other equipment to defend Iran against a possible Israeli attack. Underlying all of this, of course, underlying it, is the distinct possibility that Israel may be forced into a position where it exercises the so-called Samson option and uses nuclear weapons. So we now face a heightened risk of nuclear warfare in Europe, in the Middle East, and of course over the Taiwan issue with China, which is building a much larger deterrent force than it previously had, a second strike ability that is guaranteed. So this is all very alarming, and it is a shame that it is impossible to imagine why the world is sitting by and doing nothing as genocide occurs, as warfare escalates, and as the danger of war in Pacific Asia increases.
I don't know if you saw this footage coming out of Israeli media that they're raping prisoners in Israel, and they were talking on the media, on the channel 12, they're talking about just legitimizing the actions of these soldiers, and they're talking about, let's put it in the chart of just torturing people this way. Unbelievable what's going on.
Well, there seems to be no limit to the Israeli ability to carry out depraved acts. And this act of depravity. By the way, my understanding is there was also a live streamed rape from a prison directed to Mr. Ben-Gvir, National Security Minister, and made available to the public. Some clouding of the actual act of rape, but nonetheless a celebration of an act which by any standard is completely unacceptable and indecent. And so I would say that in many ways Israel seems to be a state that is in the process of imploding. Its foreign friendships are collapsing. The support for it, even in the United States and among Jews abroad, is collapsing. Its support in Europe is lessened, and it has united the Islamic world against it, and it is seen elsewhere in non-Muslim countries as, for example, your own country, Brazil, as an international pariah, an outlaw. But it's not just foreign relations that are imploding, it's domestically. The military have defied Mr. Netanyahu and criticized him for lack of strategy, demanded a ceasefire in Gaza. The settlers in the West Bank are out of control. With the help of the Israeli occupation forces, they are murdering and pillaging Palestinians, driving them from their villages, destroying their crops, and so on. The ultra-Orthodox, the so-called Haredim, have been told that they're going to be conscripted into the army and have run demonstrations saying they'd rather die than join the army. The judicial system was already under attack, with Mr. Netanyahu trying to eliminate judicial independence in the interest of staying out of prison, where he might, if he leaves office, he will very likely end up. And You have the hostage families correctly accusing Mr. Netanyahu of not wanting to conduct the talks for hostage release in good faith. The final proof of that, of course, is the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, who was a moderate voice and guiding the hostage release talks. Mr. Netanyahu killed him. You don't kill someone you're serious about negotiating with. So this is a mess. And we can all, I think you and I can thank God that we are not Israelis or Palestinians.
Yeah, do we know, I remember last time we talked about Ismail Haniyeh, you said that he's a moderate man. He was a moderate man. He was trying to negotiate with Israel in Qatar. But right now, what do we know about the new leader of Hamas, political leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar?
Well, Yahya Sinwar, as I recall, spent many years in Israeli prison. He's said to have learned pretty good Hebrew while he was there. He clearly has lost, like almost every other Palestinian, he has lost members of his family. He was apparently the mastermind of the jailbreak on October 7, 2023. Very ingenious application of different techniques to escape from the concentration camp called Gaza. Now, unfortunately, it's become an extermination camp, a place where genocide is in progress. He has no reason to compromise with the Israelis, who have shown at every turn that they don't really care about their own people. As you know, it's now clear that of the roughly 1,200 Israelis and others who died on October 7, about half were actually killed by the Israeli forces under the Hannibal Directive. These are not people that you can trust. And of course, to add to all of this, Israel has just announced that it intends to assassinate Yahya Sinwar, that he's number one on their list of potential targets. So I'd say he has not broken off the negotiations with Israel as far as I know, but I don't think he's going to be as prepared to compromise and accommodate the Israelis as